Here's a little tracker made using the new ACB Jupiter 8 model in the Fantom. Big nasty FM tone to start with. Some CR78. Some, I think this is 909. And this is 808. Little resonance sweep. Synth pad tone. And then a secondary lead. Fat as you like that, innit?
If you like this, come and see. It's a Zen-Core, it's the ACB. If you want it, it's not free, but it's worth it if you're asking me.
So yeah, here I've got the Roland Fantom, and it's quite a beast too. If you don't know what it is, it's essentially a 16-part multi-timbral studio in a box. It's got Zen-Core, it's got V-piano, it comes with over 3,500 tones and 90 drum kits, and that includes their 808s, 909s and CR78, as you've just heard in our intro track. And there's loads more specs I'll not rattle off here, because the reason I have this is they've just added a new expansion pack that contains, amongst other things, an ACB emulation of the Jupiter 8 with an SH101 on the way. But surely this already has a Jupiter 8, I hear you cry, and yes it does, but that's the Zen-Core expansion, which isn't the same code as the ACB. So this is the first Roland synth to combine the Zen-Core and the ACB technology. And what's the difference? Why would you want both? Well, that's what we're going to find out here. And my mate Andy works for Roland, and this is his unit he's kindly lent me for my experimentations. And if you know this channel, you may know I've got a Jupiter 4, a Juno 60, a Juno 106, a JX3P, and an SH101, all of which have plug-outs for the System 8. And I have to say, the plug-outs for the System 8 are really close to the originals. The only differences are probably the differences you get between two 40-year-old analog vintage synths anyway. But unfortunately, I don't have a Jupiter 8. It's a little bit difficult to justify when I got all this stuff behind me. But I can't see why they'd have made the Jupiter 8 any less close to the original as they have with all the others. So I'm going to test the Jupiter 8 ACB versus the Zen-Core just to show you what the differences are. Taking a look at the similarities first between the ACB and the Zen-Core, here's a nice pad tone I've made on both of them. And for this sort of tone, the Zen-Core is bang on. It's great, you know. No one's going to tell me they could really tell a difference in the mix. And for 90-95% of your tones, you're staying within these parameters. You're not cranking things up like the resonance to peak, and you're not using the FM to its maximum. And that's a fairly complex tone. What have we got going on in there? If we go to the ACB model, got two oscillators. We've got a little LFO modulating oscillator 1. We've got the same on the Zen-Core model. There's the LFO. A tiny bit of modulation on one of the oscillators. So it feels like a waste of processing power using the ACB actually to make a tone like that. But the ACB comes into its own when you take things to the extreme. You crank up the resonance or you start using a load of FM. So to show the differences, as I've got an SH101 here and I don't have a Jupiter 8, thought maybe let's try the SH101 model that will be coming to this expansion. It's not there yet. This is a beta version I've got on here. Let's try that against my SH101 just to show how close they are. As I say, I've got the Jupiter 4, I've got the JX3P, I've got the 106, I've got the 60, and they're all really good. But just to really give you an idea, this is a Zen-Core SH101, and this is the ACB model. It's a beta version at the minute, so can't tweak this tone actually. It's the only one on here. Slight differences there that I'll explain in a second, but just the interaction between the envelope amount and the frequency and the keyboard range and stuff like that. It's difficult to get them identical because this one is fixed and does this. Watch your ears. Okay, so. And it's when we go to the extremes you really can tell the difference between the different models. So if we go to the SH101 and do the same, you can hear that resonance, that growl, that dirt in there. And it's the same on the ACB. While you're playing around and trying to match things, it really does feel like you're playing with the SH101. As you tweak it, it acts in the same way. But coming to the Zen-Core, I'm not going to go with the Zen-Core in any way, actually, but it's just not as identical and known for not being as identical. So the cutoff there is tuned to the same pitch, but you just don't get the same effect. It doesn't have that depth and that growl to it. Whereas the ACB model does. ACB model's identical, isn't it? Whereas the Zen-Core, not an exact replica. I mean, I've taken it to the extremes here. You wouldn't normally take things to those extremes. So dropping the resonance down to about 50%. This is the ACB. This is the SH101. And this is the Zen-Core. You can hear again the Zen-Core. It still sounds, you know, it's doing a similar sort of thing. But it doesn't sound identical to the SH101. Whereas the ACB is so much closer. And Zen-Core once more. Here's a tone I created using FM on the ACB model on the JP8. And here is me trying to do something similar on the Zen-Core model. Little known to me, when I made this FM tone, I was just picking out things. I couldn't get them to sound the same, and then I realised that the VCO 1 and 2 on a JP8 go from 64 foot to 2 foot, but on the ACB, they only go from 16 to 2. So I'm just pointing out some little minor differences here. But the tone I originally made had VCO 1 on 64 and VCO 2 on 4, so I couldn't make the same tone. I couldn't do this tone. Whether you'd want to make that tone is debatable, but it just couldn't be done. And then I realised I was using the triangle waveform on VCO 2, and if we go to the JP8 model on the Zen-Core, we don't have a triangle on either of the waveforms. So I wasn't trying to be awkward in a way, I was just making a tone, and it turns out it picked out a lot of differences. So just listen to VCO 2 on these. That's a sawtooth going over to the ACB model. Let's turn VCO 1 down, VCO 2 up. Let's turn that into the sawtooth. So sounds a little bit like this one's picking different voices, doesn't it? A little bit phasey. Yeah, so the JP8 model is playing the same voice when you play the same key, and the Zen-Core sounds to me like it's playing different voices. Only just noticed that now. But let's add some cross mod. So let's take the cross mod down, VCO 1 all the way up, VCO 2 all the way down. So all we're going to be listening to here is VCO 1. Just check they're the same. Okay, so we've got a sawtooth playing the same notes. If we start playing the cross mod on the Zen-Core mod, And then try the same on the ACB. That's about the same amount of cross mod. Not identical, but we're only on 1/6 of what you can do with the cross mod on the ACB model. So you just can't do these bits on the Zen-Core. And these are the really resource-intensive processors, and that's why the Zen-Core can't do it. Zen-Core can play loads more notes. You can have them all over every one of your 16 tracks in here. But this is so resource-intensive that you're only going to get one of them, and that's why things like the boutiques only have 4 voices. So coming back to that demo track from the intro, the main lead is the ACB model. Oops, turn the drums off. That's wicked, that, isn't it? Anyway, you can't do that on the Zen-Core, and for the reasons I explained earlier. If we look down here, we've got VCO 1's at 32 foot, VCO 2's at 2, so you can't get that spread on the Zen-Core, and you can't get this much modulation. And that is the sort of tone I absolutely love. If we go to the Zen-Core now, I do use it in this as the sort of secondary tone to that lead tone. Nice tone in itself. But it's not this, is it? So yeah, Zen-Core versus ACB. Hopefully that gives you a bit more of an understanding of how the whole system works. Great that it's in the Fantom. If you've got a Fantom and you want to get those really nasty, gnarly electronic tones, they're all in there now, or they can be if you buy the pack. So I hope you enjoyed that, all except for my dodgy little bit of vocals in that track. But if you did, please think about subscribing, ring the bell, join me over on Patreon. I've got patches, I've got samples, I've got Patreon exclusive content, all for the price of a caramel macchiato, venti, half skim, half milk, half hot, half flavour per month. And check out my starskycar.com website as well. Again, there's patches, there's samples, there's stuff to buy, and there's free stuff as well. So maybe do buy some of the stuff rather than just downloading the free bits like everyone else, because it would really help to support the channel, and it's nice to know you get supported. Anyway, I'm really pleased that you stayed to the very end, and I will see you next time.